Ma'am, you can't be here. Maintenance staff enters through the back dock. That was the first thing they said to her. No. Hello. No. How can I help you? Just a sharp public dismissal, right in front of the press. It was 6:57 p.m. at the Park Hill Grand Conference Center in downtown Houston. The crowd inside buzzed with anticipation. Cameras rolled. Journalists straightened their mics. Champagne glasses clinked softly behind the curtains. Tonight was the grand launch of Strata, the most anticipated black-led tech conglomerate in the American South. And the woman they just tried to escort out owned the company. Her name was Monica Traylor, 42, black, CEO of Strata Technologies, net worth in the high 8 figures. A data scientist turned founder, known for building real-time infrastructure for Fortune 100 companies, and doing it without ever once being invited to the boys' club. She wasn't wearing a name badge. She never did. She wasn't dressed to impress. Just a crisp black blouse, no jewelry, and natural curls pinned back. To the venue's event coordinator, Monica didn't look like a CO. She looked like someone delivering towels. The security guy tried again. Ma'am, I'm asking you nicely now. These doors are for the guests and keynotes. Monica raised an eyebrow. And where do the owners enter? The woman, white, late 30s, radio in hand, looked confused for a moment. Then annoyed. Let's not escalate this. We have a very tight schedule, and this is a VIP space. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something. Have you ever built something from nothing, step by painful step, only to be treated like a stranger in the room you paid for? Have you ever watched someone talk down to you while standing on the floor you created? If you have, then this story will hit you where it matters most. And if you already feel it, tap like, share, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Because someone you love has lived this moment too. And they need to see what happens next. Monica didn't argue. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't pull out a business card. She simply stepped back from the doors, turned around, and walked to the loading dock at the back of the building. Because sometimes, letting them believe you're nobody is the most powerful opening move of all. 10 minutes later, inside the main ballroom, the host was warming up the crowd. Soft jazz played over the PA system. Light bounced off chrome signage bearing Strata's logo. Every chair was filled. A monitor at the front of the room flashed. Keynote begins in 5 o'clock. In the VIP rows sat VCs, city officials, tech executives. All of them waiting for Monica Traylor to walk out and show the world what a black-led data company could really do. But she wasn't backstage. Not yet. She was walking through the service hallway, gray walls, crates of cutlery, janitor carts. A busboy passed and nodded without speaking. The venue staff didn't recognize her, and that suited her just fine. Because what Monica knew, and what no one in that ballroom did yet, was that the launch wasn't the real event. The correction was. Back near the entrance, the event coordinator stood nervously checking her tablet. I don't understand, she whispered to a junior assistant. Where's the founder? We had her scheduled to arrive with the mayor's delegation. The assistant shrugged. Just then, a producer leaned out from the stage curtains. 2 minutes to go. Where is Miss Traylor? Panic started to ripple. But not for Monica. She had just stepped into the service elevator. And at her side, she carried a black messenger bag, not with a speech, not with makeup or media cues, but with a document none of them had ever seen. A document that would change the room. Forever. At exactly 7:14 p.m., the house lights dimmed. The MC stepped up. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman you're about to meet is redefining equity, ownership, and visibility in the digital age. Backstage, Monica stepped into position. The coordinator still hadn't recognized her. In fact, when the spotlight hit, she reached out to stop her. "Ma'am, I told you earlier, this area's strict." Monica didn't say a word. She just walked past, straight into the light. And the audience, every guest, every investor, every politician, stood to their feet in a roaring ovation. Because while the staff had been trying to show her the back door, the world had already rolled out the red carpet. The applause hadn't even faded before Monica stepped up to the mic. Stage lights pooled around her, framing the black blouse that still bore a faint streak of dust from the loading dock. She didn't brush it off. She wanted them to see it, because it told a story louder than any headline. She looked out across the ballroom. Glass chandeliers, gold-rimmed place cards, hundreds of high-level executives, all watching the woman they had Googled, quoted, retweeted. The very same woman someone at the front desk had tried to redirect to the janitor's entrance. Her voice cut through the noise like the first crack of thunder before a storm. "Before I begin," she said, "I want to thank the Park Hill Grand for their hospitality." Some people clapped reflexively. Others sensed her tone and froze. "When I arrived today, I was told that this space was only for VIPs, that maintenance workers should use the back, and that I couldn't enter the room I paid to create." Silence rippled through the crowd. "Now, maybe it was the way I walked in, or maybe it was the way I looked, or maybe," she added, pausing just long enough to let the weight settle, "the assumption had already been made before I said a word." The room was still. No camera dared pan away. "Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone be called aggressive for simply being present? Ever seen the kindest person in the room mistaken for a problem before they even opened their mouth? Then you know what Monica felt standing there, at a podium she was nearly locked out of. But she didn't raise her voice. She raised the stakes. "I'm not here to shame anyone," she said calmly. "I'm here to expose a pattern. Because this didn't start at the door tonight. It started when Strata was first pitched to 3 major banks, none of whom thought a black woman could secure enterprise clients. It continued when our company hit $40 million in contracts, and the media still called us emerging. It carried on when I was told to tone down the mission in our pitch deck or risk alienating white investors." Murmurs stirred near the back. Monica let them. "And tonight, I walked into my own launch and was asked to use the service hallway. So I did." She held up her black messenger bag. "And in that hallway, I passed the people who make this building run. The ones who don't get press coverage, or standing ovations, or equity. Which is why Strata is launching something else tonight. A program we've been building quietly for 18 months. A new screen lit up behind her. The logo read, "Access, Infrastructure for the Invisible," she explained. "It's a $15 million fund for janitorial staff, kitchen workers, and back-of-house talent across America's largest venues. We're building a platform to track workplace discrimination in real time. Employees will be able to anonymously report gatekeeping, verbal bias, and denial of upward mobility. We'll give them free legal aid. We'll protect their anonymity. And we'll make sure the buildings that shine the brightest answer for how they treat the people working in their shadows." Half the crowd was stunned. The other half was already on their feet. The MC, frozen at the side of the stage, leaned toward his assistant and whispered, "Did you know she was going to do this?" She hadn't. No one had. Because Monica hadn't come to be celebrated. She came to turn the spotlight around. And just when the applause began to rise again, she dropped one last bomb. "Oh, one more thing. The woman who stopped me at the door? She didn't recognize me. But I recognized her. Her name is Lindsay. She used to be an assistant manager at a conference hotel where I worked banquets to pay off student loans. She once told me I wasn't leadership material, Tonight, she'll be receiving a severance check and an invitation to reapply under a more equitable policy. One that won't be decided by someone like her ever again. The room gasped. Some clapped. Some winced. But no one looked away. Because the lesson was clear. Monica Traylor didn't just reclaim her place. She rewrote the room. By midnight, the launch had gone viral. Clips of Monica's speech were being shared across LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. The moment she exposed the venue staff's insult, the unveiling of the Access Fund, and the line everyone kept replaying. She didn't recognize me, but I recognized her. Some called it savage. Others called it long overdue. But nobody called it weak. The headlines poured in. Black CEO dismantles discrimination in her own launch room. Tech founder turns the mic into a movement. Monica Traylor didn't just enter, she took over the room. But not all of it was applause. By 10 a.m. the next morning, Monica's assistant, Mia, walked into her office holding a tablet and looking pale. "You've got to see this," she said. A popular cable news host had aired a segment titled, "CEOs Gone Woke, Should Billionaires Be Playing Social Justice?" They showed Monica's speech, cropped and out of context, framed it as public humiliation, professional activism, and reverse discrimination. A roundtable of panelists, none of whom had built a company from the ground up, tore into her with smug, soundbite-ready jabs. Monica watched in silence. When the segment ended, she simply said, "Let them talk." But inside, she wasn't quiet. Because this wasn't just about criticism. This was about memory. 22 years earlier, Monica had stood outside a glass-walled meeting room at a financial firm where she worked as a junior data intern. She was 19. Smart. Hungry. Ready. She'd shown up to a project debrief with her notes in hand, dressed sharp, voice prepared. And when she walked in, one of the partners looked up and said, without turning from his laptop, "Coffee goes to the right of the folder." No one corrected him. No one laughed. She just set her binder down and left. That was the moment something changed. She realized they didn't just want her invisible. They wanted her useful and silent. That memory was why she built Strata with transparency baked into the code. Why she gave her first equity package to a single black mom working front desk at a shared office. Why she refused every PR team that told her, "Don't lead with race. Just lead." She remembered. The backlash didn't scare her, but the silence from some of her peers did. Monica had founded Strata with the help of 2 early angel investors, both men of color, both quiet since the speech. No texts. No emails. No public support. But support came from where she least expected. At 3:12 p.m., she got a call. Unknown number. Out of state. She answered. "Monica? This is Rosa. We met once, in Atlanta, back when I was head of HR at Lexer." Monica tried to place her. "I was fired in 2019. I complained about what they were doing to young black temps. They told me I was bitter. But yesterday, I saw your speech. And I just wanted to say, you didn't just speak for yourself. You spoke for all of us who sat there silenced." Monica's eyes welled up. Not from pain. From relief. "Thank you," she whispered. Rosa continued. "And I've got 173 names of people who are ready to beta test your Access platform. Real cases. Real data. Real voices." That night, Monica walked the edge of her balcony in silence, the Houston skyline glowing like a circuit board. Her voice recorder in one hand, coffee in the other. She spoke softly, not for anyone else, but for herself. "They'll try to call you divisive. They'll say you're emotional. They'll say the room was fine until you made it uncomfortable. But I wasn't the discomfort. I was the honesty. She looked up at the dark sky and remembered another thing her mother used to say. The moment you stop apologizing for who you are, they'll either leave or listen. By the time Monica returned to work the next morning, the floodgates had opened. An unexpected ally had stepped in. The National Venue Workers Union had issued a formal statement. We stand with Monica Traylor and all employees misclassified, underpaid, or dismissed in silence. They pledged their own internal reporting network and offered to partner with Access. Even the mayor's office, which had remained quiet, released a quote praising Strata's community innovation and technological courage. And finally, one of the original silent investors messaged her. You were right to say it. I was wrong to stay quiet. Monica didn't need revenge. She had reach. She had resilience. And she was just getting started. The email arrived with a subject line so crisp it felt prepackaged by Legacy itself. Speaker invitation, Global Futures Tech Summit, Geneva. For most, it was a dream. Keynote speaker at the most prestigious tech event in Europe. Over 9,000 attendees. 3 days of closed-door networking with executives from every Fortune 100 list. And now, they wanted Monica Traylor. Her assistant, Mia, ran into her office breathless. Geneva. Top slot. They want you. Monica looked at the invite. No attachment. No details. Just a direct link to RSVP and the line. We'd love for you to share your insights on innovation and the future of workforce automation. Something in her stomach turned. She clicked the link. It took her to a slick, black and white site. The speaker lineup was impressive. But one name made her pause. Liam Chadwick, co-founder of Echelon AI. The same man who, 2 years earlier, had stood on a national stage and said, social equity has nothing to do with scale. Code is colorblind. The same man whose company had been exposed last year for quietly using AI models that flagged job applicants with ethnic-sounding names for extra review. And he was listed right before her. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been invited to a table you once built, only to find they want your face, not your voice? Have you ever had your truth trimmed into sound bites for their comfort? That's what Monica saw as she scanned the rest of the speaker packet. The suggested outline for her talk was included. Avoid polarizing language. Focus on collaboration. Please omit any reference to specific U.S. incidents or companies by name. She laughed out loud. It wasn't humor. It was disbelief. Later that night, Mia found her standing in the darkened conference room at Strata HQ. What are you thinking? She asked gently. Monica turned, eyes steady. They don't want my ideas. They want my image. My presence is the proof they're inclusive now. Mia nodded slowly. Are you still going? Oh, I'm going, Monica said. But not with their script. 2 weeks later, Geneva. The stage was massive, flanked by crystal panels and LED pillars. Monica sat backstage, reviewing nothing. She knew her words already. Chadwick was on before her, talking about neutral data and the myth of bias in hiring algorithms. He called it a tech-driven meritocracy. And the crowd clapped. Politely. Predictably. When he exited the stage, he walked past Monica, nodded smugly, and whispered, They're ready for you. She smiled. No, they're not. Her walk to the podium felt long and deliberate. She didn't rush it. Didn't thank anyone. She began with this. I was asked to speak about automation. About where we're going. But I need to talk about where we still are. She paused. The room was too quiet. I was also asked to avoid mentioning specific events, specific companies, But silence is the currency of continued discrimination. So let's name things. The tech world held its breath. Echelon AI. 14,291 job applicants flagged for additional review. 83% were black or Latinx. I was asked not to say that. I'm saying it anyway. The moderator stared. Chadwick fidgeted off stage. Monica continued. You don't get to invite us to the table, then tell us not to speak. Inclusion isn't decoration. It's disruption. Halfway through, the crowd began to shift. Some executives looked uncomfortable. Others leaned forward. One woman in the third row wiped away a tear. But the twist? Monica didn't finish the speech. She stopped mid-sentence. If I'm only allowed here when I'm quiet, then you can keep the stage. And with that, she set the microphone down and walked off. Mid-keynote. No applause. Just awe. By the time she reached the green room, her phone was vibrating. The clip had already gone viral. Hashtag walked off. Hashtag voiceover invitation. Hashtag trailer truth. And the conference? It had just been defined not by what was said, but by what was refused. 3 days later, Monica received another email. Not from Geneva. From the World Education Fund. They'd seen the speech, and they didn't want her to talk about innovation. They wanted her to design it. The invitation arrived on thick, ivory paper, the kind only used for royalty, weddings, or international power moves. It read, The World Education Fund, in coordination with UNESCO and the Global Equity Alliance, formally invites Ms. Monica Traylor to lead the development of a new global fellowship, Vox, Voice Over Exclusion. The mission? Create pathways for marginalized tech innovators around the world. Fund them. Train them. Amplify them. Not for diversity points. For ownership. Monica sat alone at her desk when she read it. No music. No notifications. No one else in the room. Just her, and the sound of quiet validation. She could see it already. Young engineers in Nairobi, data scientists in Manila, developers in Detroit, all getting what she never had. Not just money. Not just belief. But institutional backing from the very systems that once shut them out. She picked up the phone and called Mia. We're not adding this to the Strata roadmap. We're building a separate division. Entirely nonprofit. Independent board. Global base. I want no one to own this. Mia laughed. You're not thinking small, huh? I've never had that luxury. But even with the win, something weighed on her. A letter. She hadn't seen it in over 15 years, but the moment the Geneva video went viral, it showed up. Typed. Signed. Unsent. From her father. Back when she was 22. He'd written it the week she walked out on her first data job, the one where they kept, accidentally, omitting her name from credits. In the letter, he tried to talk her out of quitting. Told her to stay in the system. To prove them wrong from inside. She never responded. And after he died 5 years later, she never talked about it again. That letter was now sitting on her desk. Folded. Heavy. Because for all her speeches and defiance and headlines, there was a part of her that still heard his voice when things got cute. The room quieted a little. And Monica didn't give her a speech. She pulled out the letter. This is from someone who didn't think I should push this hard. He was smart. Protective. Wise in the ways the world worked. But he didn't see what I saw coming. Sometimes, being sure doesn't mean being certain. It means being willing to be wrong, as long as it's on your own terms. The girl nodded slowly, then handed Monica her notebook. I wrote code that tracks who's always talked over in group calls. It uses audio patterns. It's not perfect, but I'm working on it. Monica opened to the page and blinked. It was brilliant. Pure raw invention. She looked up. "You're the first Vox Fellow," the girl gasped. The room erupted. And that's when Monica realized she hadn't betrayed her father. She had finished the fight he never got to start. That night, she reread the letter one last time, folded it, slid it into the bottom drawer of her desk, and whispered, "You stayed in the system for me. I broke it for her. We both did what we had to." They called it disruptive activism disguised as business. That was the phrase used in a leaked memo from a U.S. Senate aide after the launch of Monica's Vox Fellowship was announced on a global stage. The fund was drawing attention, not just in tech spaces, but in education, civic leadership, and government. Too much attention. And it was making some powerful people uncomfortable. Because Vox wasn't just funding innovators, it was tracking systemic exclusion. It was building tools to document gatekeeping in hiring, coding teams, and even school admissions. And it had already helped over 400 people file discrimination reports anonymously, with proof. Within a month, Monica received a courtesy letter from a bipartisan congressional subcommittee requesting her appearance at a hearing titled Equity Tech, Exploring the Boundary Between Inclusion and Indoctrination. Monica read it 3 times. They weren't asking for her expertise. They were setting a trap. Her board urged caution. Some advised her to decline. Others said she should hire PR handlers, spin consultants, get a lawyered-up prep team. Monica did none of that. She made one call. To a woman named Anley Dev. Anjali was the first official Vox Fellow. A second-generation Indian-American coder who'd been laughed out of her graduate pitch meeting by an all-white review panel who said her AI model for food distribution in migrant communities was not commercial enough. Vox had funded her, mentored her, elevated her. Now she was working as a data ethics researcher at MIT. Monica called her in and said simply, "They want me to defend Vox like it's a problem. But I think it's time they hear from someone they already tried to erase." Anjali agreed before Monica finished the sentence. The hearing was set for Thursday. Monica walked in wearing a solid navy suit, nothing flashy. No entourage. Just a tablet, a folder, and her name etched on the placard in front of her. Ms. Monica Traylor, CEO, Strata Technologies, founder Vox. The senators opened predictably. Accusations disguised as questions. "Ms. Traylor, do you believe targeting corporate policies using privately gathered data is responsible? Wouldn't you agree that these equity programs may intimidate legitimate business owners?" She answered calmly, "No one's intimidated by equity unless they're afraid of visibility. And our data isn't targeted. It's volunteered by people tired of whispering in break rooms." But then came the twist. The chairman leaned forward, voice dripping with skepticism. "Ms. Traylor, these numbers you present, are they peer-reviewed? Are these stories even real?" That was her cue. She tapped her tablet. The screen behind her lit up. And onto the congressional record walked Anley Dev. No one had expected a witness. Certainly not one like her. She wore a simple blazer and jeans. And her voice? Steady. Sharp. Devastating. "My name is Anley Dev. I'm a Vox Fellow. And I was told in writing that my code had no value to Western markets. That same code is now feeding 6,000 people per month across 2 continents. Vox didn't indoctrinate me. It amplified me. And for every story like mine, there are hundreds more. Women, immigrants, black students, disabled coders, all written off before they ever plugged in a line of code." The room fell into total silence. Then applause. Not from the senators. From the gallery. Because what they expected was corporate tap dancing. What they got was the truth. After the hearing, Monica didn't celebrate. She didn't post a victory clip. She just walked out of the building, into the sunlight, and stood for a moment on the Capitol steps. And when a young reporter shoved a mic in her face asking, "Do you think this will shut down your critics?" Monica answered with one line, "I don't need them to be silent. I need the unheard to get louder." That evening, Anjali posted a clip of the hearing. Just one quote, one line of her testimony. "I wasn't waiting to be rescued. I was waiting to be seen." The post was viewed over 10 million times in 24 hours. And that week, Vox received its largest private donation to date, $7.8 million, from an anonymous source, with a note attached. "For every time they called us aggressive when we were just brave." The doors opened at 9 a.m. Not to a ballroom, not to a campus, but to something no one had quite seen before. A 3-story converted textile warehouse in the heart of Oakland, now transformed into Vox House, the world's first equity-powered innovation hub. No keycards, no private elevator, no badge hierarchy. Just sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows, a hallway of murals painted by local artists, and a ceiling that still showed the steel beams from when the building stitched denim instead of futures. At the entrance, etched into reclaimed glass, were the words, "We build where we were once denied." Inside, Monica stood quietly watching the first students arrive. Young, curious, nervous. Many were first generation. Some were refugees. Some didn't speak English as a first language. None of them had ever been called elite. And yet, here they were, surrounded by whiteboards, 3D printers, and AI rigs, with mentors waiting, not to fix them, but to amplify them. Behind Monica stood her team, press, international partners, and dozens of supporters. But in front of her, the reason. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched the world finally build a door where you were told there would only ever be a wall? Have you ever seen someone walk into a space that looks like them, sounds like them, because someone refused to leave them behind? That's what Vox House was. Not a monument. A mirror. At 10:30, the crowd gathered in the central rotunda. Monica stepped to the center. No mic, no slides. Just truth. "Years ago, I walked into a building like this, and they told me I was in the wrong place. That the hallway was for staff. That my badge must be fake. That my presence made the room feel different." She looked around slowly. And they were right. I did make the room different. Because I wasn't there to blend. I was there to be counted. A pause. "And today, every single one of you who walks through these doors, from Nairobi to New Orleans, from Bangkok to Baltimore, you don't have to prove your worth. You are the proof." Applause echoed through the old concrete and brick walls. But Monica wasn't finished. She turned to the cameras. And now she was speaking to you. Yes, you, watching or listening from wherever you are. Maybe you've worked in silence for decades. Maybe you've been mistaken, misnamed, dismissed. Maybe someone once looked at you and thought you were there to serve when you were there to lead. I want you to hear this. You weren't invisible. They just refused to see you. But we do. And we're building a world that can't unsee you ever again. Her voice softened. To the 65-year-old in Memphis, who taught herself code after being laid off. To the grandfather in Newark, who walked his grandchild to every robotics competition. To the mother in Tulsa who kept showing up to pitch meetings, even when they said, "We already hired for that." This house is for you. You were always qualified. You were just early. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't hide it. She let it shine. That night, as the sun set over Oakland, Monica stood alone at the rooftop garden, overlooking the city she once dreamed of reaching. In her hand was a letter. Not her father's this time, but one written by a Vox student from Lagos. I used to whisper my ideas in the back of classrooms. Now I say them out loud. Because I saw you do it first. She folded the note gently and whispered into the warm night air. Now it's your turn.